Debt levels in China are astronomical, and they talk about zombie corporations, and what that refers to are companies over there who have huge amounts of debt. They're in industries that are declining, say steel making or coal producing, employ lots and lots of people, and the governments can't call their debt in because it's all state-funded debt. Being a communist country, the government's the primary lender. They can't call these debts in, so they create zombie companies. That's a company that continues to exist to employ people but effectively makes no money, and the amount of leverage or the amount of debt that sits in that system is astronomical. So when economists look at the debt levels in China, they're particularly looking at households and companies and their ability to repay that. So there are some synergies to the GFC. However, the communist regime versus a free market economy like the US has some significant differences, and the Australian market, and particularly resources for a rebound, you're hoping that the Chinese do something to stimulate growth again. And these are all short-term plays because eventually there's only so many roads and ghost cities and what have you can build, and any stimulation out of the Chinese economy is a great thing for us. However, it's only a short-term fix, and when I say short-term, that might be 3 to 5 years. These aren't long-term 10, 15, 20-year plans that will get us out of an economic slump. Not that we're in one, but there are elements there that are providing some short-term impetus for our market. News is released every second of the day, and that news can drive the market up or down. And you get a flow of bad news, obviously that's going to drive the market lower, and that was what was happening over Christmas and the New Year. It was a very dour situation news-wise. You have some flow come out that's got some positive aspects to it. All of a sudden those bears change to bulls and the market moves forward again. So the volatility is still very much around, driven by news flow, which is a dangerous thing, particularly the way technology moves. And once you take the noise out, you've got to look at the underlying cycles and the economics that are behind industries and businesses and companies and markets, and make your decisions based on that. Now, the vast majority of people, if they're making investment decisions, reading the Financial Review or the Sydney Morning Herald or web pages, that's old news. Even though it's released instantaneously, it's effectively old news. It's already priced into the market to a great degree, and it's tough for mum and dads to sit down and actually decipher what's happening in real economics and real markets and interest rates and what have you. So you do have to rely on experts. What we've seen, particularly in the real estate market, is anytime there's an election or an election year, it's like things stop. People cease making decisions, and particularly large decisions. Should I buy this new house or buy an investment property? Because the quantums are so large and the transaction costs are large. People will defer those decisions until they've got clarity around who the government is. And there's a lot of uncertainty around tax policy, negative gearing, superannuation changes, cigarette tax, all these sorts of things. The governments and the opposition are trying to buy political points to get themselves back into government. We're human beings and we don't deal well with uncertainty. We can't make decisions in an uncertain environment. So this short-term transition until we've had an election is not a good outcome for our economy. Although the share market has done well, I think you'll find that's driven more by overseas dollars, and you know that because the Aussie dollar's gone to 78 cents. Right. People are saying, why is our dollar gone to 78 cents? That's overseas money looking at us as a proxy for China and growth out of China. It's got nothing to do with our economy and nothing to do with our political system, because on the whole they'd be going, that's an election, you stay out of that. Same thing for the US as well. They're coming at the end of their election campaigns and having a vote in November who's going to be running their country, and they need certainty as well. So these aren't years, or election years aren't times that you go, oh, we'll get a really good run. You get a lot of volatility, and if you've got the intestinal fortitude to make a decision when things are down, you'll make a lot of money, because uncertainty people don't like, and if you're prepared to take a risk in that uncertain market, you'll be rewarded over a reasonable time frame. It's running out of steam. It's running out of steam. The banks are lending credit, but they've started to clamp down on their lending ratios, their serviceability. That's what took a lot of the steam out of the property market, was a change in the credit conditions that the banks were willing to operate under. That's where the property market has been cooled. That's not economically driven, that's policy driven, and that's bank driven, and that's a good thing. It's given people a time to consolidate and catch up again, and where's the next leg from here? Who knows? I can see interest rates staying low for a while. and it's it's pretty well just as affordable to buy as it is to rent. And you're seeing for lease signs everywhere, and these places aren't being filled. 5 years ago, there was a chronic shortage of rental properties because it was hard to buy. It was expensive to buy. Well, that's reversed, and the market's really kicked on. They've gone, we need to make it affordable for people. This isn't fair that people are priced out and they've got to travel 3 hours to get to work. How do we solve the problem? Well, let's make it easy for them to come in from wider locations, make it fast trains, fast ferries, what have you, from Central Coast or south of Sydney, west of Sydney. I think that's a massive impetus for future growth, and it's a great policy response socially, because it allows people to afford that first place. But when I always bring that back to markets and economics and what does that mean for mum and dad investors, huge infrastructure spending by governments is a great thing. Keeps people in a job, keeps them spending. They want to buy a house, or they've got to rent, they've got to buy a car. The wheels keep turning. Taxpayer funded, they've got to pay tax. It comes back into the economy and it gets spent again, and it keeps our economy ticking along and protected somewhat from those huge economic shocks that can occur offshore.